Hello, and welcome to Critical Weight Theory. So, this episode starts with a simple phrase: the human jungle. You have probably heard it before to describe various things: a ruthless workplace, a crowded city, a cutthroat corporation, a competitive society where everyone seems to be scrambling for status, resources, and survival. In everyday language, the phrase works as a metaphor: a place where competition rules, a place where people meet in what someone once deceptively called a free and open encounter. The image is easy to picture: a dense environment where only the strongest survive. But like most metaphors, the reality is actually more complicated because a jungle is not just chaos, it's actually an ecosystem. In a real jungle, survival is not only about brute force, it's about relationships, predators and prey, parasites and hosts, creatures that camouflage themselves, creatures that cooperate, creatures that deceive. Strength matters, but strength alone does not determine who survives. Adaptability matters, cunning matters, and collaboration matters. Sometimes the apex predator in one environment becomes the hunted in another. And when we talk about the human jungle, we're usually describing something similar: not literal tooth and claw, but something subtler: manipulation, social alliances, reputation, networks of connection, the not always quiet pressure to conform. The currency isn't always strength, often it is influence. The camouflage is not fur or leaves, it's the mask people wear to fit in. And sometimes the jungle has rules that are invisible, rules that slowly become normal over time. At first, the threats seem obvious: competition for jobs, competition for recognition, and competition for space in crowded systems. But the deeper danger is not always visible. Sometimes it's the vines. What am I talking about with that? Well, slowly growing structures of bureaucracy, systems of expectation, layers of rules ostensibly designed to improve efficiency, organization, or standards. Individually, some rules might seem reasonable, but over time, they begin to weave together. Sometimes they become contradictory, they become like tangled weeds, until people find themselves inside something much larger than they intended. And some people will just seek to escape from them. The sociologist Max Weber had a phrase for this. He called it the iron cage, a world where modern systems of rationalization, be it rules, efficiency, or bureaucracy, create a structure that traps the individual, not necessarily through violence, though that's still there, but also simply through routine, force of habit, and cultural assumption. A system so pervasive that it begins to feel like the natural order of things, and people falsely end up believing that things simply could not be done differently. That sort of illusion is dangerous, but oddly enough, it's evidence that we are actually not just jungle animals. Karl Marx described something similar when he talked about alienation: the idea that modern systems can distance people from their creative human nature. Work becomes mechanical, identity becomes functional, the person becomes a role inside a larger machine. In this version of the jungle, the predators are not just empty headed animals, they're largely abstract forces: deadlines, expectations, systems of evaluation, invisible hierarchies, or at least mostly invisible ones. And perhaps the strangest part is how easily people adapt to them. Over time, individuals start to internalize the rules, they monitor themselves, they anticipate judgment, they shape their behavior to fit the system. And the vines grow not just around them, but through them. The system no longer needs constant enforcement because people enforce it on themselves. And I'm not saying that the system is always bad or always wrong, but sometimes you have to question the nature of the society and the world around us, just like we have to question ourselves. That's the subtle terror of the human jungle, though. It's not sudden danger, but slow normalization of not questioning the world around us. A quiet process where individuality erodes and a mask replaces the self. A mask shaped by expectations, a mask shaped by what the system rewards. Eventually, people stop asking whether the cage is necessary. They begin to assume it's simply the way that the world works. The jungle, after all, is just the jungle, or so it seems. But here's the interesting thing that we can easily forget: ecosystems can change, and the human jungle is no exception, because these same traits that allow people to adapt to systems, whether it's creativity, cooperation, or imagination, well, all of those different things allow them to reshape those systems. The jungle is actually not a fixed environment, it's something humans build, and that means it's something humans can rebuild. The question is not whether the jungle exists, the question is whether we recognize it and our roles inside of it. Well, thanks for listening to this episode. I hope it provides food for thought. I might make some follow up episodes based on the same theme. I'll, of course, expand on the concept and look at different ways in which, yes, we are like a human jungle, but more complex than, just a simple metaphor. So, all right, feel free to like and subscribe, share the episode, all of that jazz, and let me know how you feel about life in the human jungle.